Hey, nice to meet you. My name is Hirsch Milani. I'm a fourth year medical student, and today I wanted to talk about how you can get research and publish as a high school student in 2025. So, today what we're going to go through is we'll first hit on why getting into medical school actually starts in high school, not college. Then we'll go into 3 secrets on how you can use high school research to get into a top college and medical school. And then lastly, we'll go into exactly what you as a high school student needs to be doing. And I think it's really important to know that research now has completely changed. So universities have become very clear that GPA and SAT scores aren't good enough to get into a good college. For example, standardized test scores for Yale show that they're only considered. Whereas if you look at the application essay, the recommendation letters, and extracurricular activities, those are in the very important category when they're looking at applications. Similarly, Stanford looks at standardized test scores, they're considered, but if you look at letters of recommendation, application essay, extracurricular activities, these are very important. And now research is actually becoming very common amongst top high school students. About 10, 15 years ago, if a high school student had done research, that was good, but now it's common. For example, the dean of admissions at UPenn said nearly 1/3 of admitted students had done academic research during their time in high school, and many earned national and international accolades for that research. Similarly, Caltech had said 45% of their students had done their own research while in high school. And Johns Hopkins on their website actually had to say that high school students are not required to have research when they're applying to Hopkins. This means it has become so common to have research that schools like Johns Hopkins have to say, oh, you don't actually need to have this just to apply. But one of the most insightful things is, what does it take to become a doctor? And you can see that research outcomes, so things like abstracts, presentations, publications, have increased from 3 to 10 times in order to become a doctor over the past 15 years. For example, dermatology, matched residents, used to have 7.2 outcomes, now it's 27.7. Or even internal medicine, a field that's not typically super research heavy in order to get into, used to be 2.8, and now it is 8.7. And so you can see it's drastically changed. Research becomes incredibly important, not just to get into college, but also throughout your entire process of becoming a doctor. So today, I want to talk about how I got 13 research publications and presentations in high school, and how then I leveraged those to get into a top college and medical school, and then exactly how you can do the same thing even if you have 0 research experience, even if you live in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in the middle of Kentucky, so it's not like I had all of these opportunities just coming down my throat. I had to actually go out and get many of them. But let me just show you a part of that journey. So whenever I was in high school, these are actually images from 2 conferences that I attended. I was able to do research and attend these conferences. Here's a publication that I got while I was in high school. And then at the time, the Siemens competition, this was the big research competition. And I was actually a semi-finalist for this at the time. But the benefits didn't stop there, because whenever I got to college, many students, whenever they get to college, they want to join a research lab, and so they send a bunch of emails and they get no responses because they don't have any experience. But since I had done so much research up until that point, and I had actual things to show for it on my CV with presentations and publications, I got into research labs like this. And here's a picture of that lab that I joined, but this is a publication that I had started while I was in high school that actually got published while I was in college. And then here are 2 more publications that I got before my before my 3rd year of college. And so it set me up not just for high school and my application, but it actually helped me throughout all of college. But it doesn't stop there, because I was very research oriented early on, but I also had a lot of clinical interests. And one of those was addressing loneliness in nursing homes. And after a bunch of work in there, I actually started a nonprofit, and I was able to be pretty successful with that nonprofit, to the point where I actually was awarded the Rhodes Scholarship. I became a finalist, and I was only one of 3 students from WashU that year. And so it was a pretty big accomplishment at the time, but it didn't stop there, because when I got to medical school, the nonprofit that I had started in college had now gotten this $500,000 grant from the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. And this was not only meaningful to my CV and how people introduce me, but it actually made me one of the most well-known students at the medical school. So much so that whenever the previous Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, had visited our university, the school made sure I was one of the very few students that actually had a chance to talk with him. And so I hope this contextualizes that research isn't just one of those things that will help you do more research in the future. Or if you start doing research early in high school, it'll help you get into a better college. It will help you for the rest of your life. And sometimes it helps you by allowing you to actually step away from research and do other things, because now you've had so many accomplishments that you don't actually have to spend as much time on it in medical school as everyone else is. And I want to make it clear that the 3 secrets I'm about to share have nothing to do with connection or your location. And it definitely doesn't mean you need to cure cancer by 12 or take calculus by 14. Everything I talk about is completely within your control. And I say this as someone that was never a genius. I felt like, I always knew I was above average, but I had to work really, really hard for most of my accomplishments. And I think that whenever you talk about research and you talk about a lot of these accomplishments, it's like, oh, this person was destined to have it. They were a genius anyways. That was never me. And so the reason I'm so passionate about this topic is because I think so many people can learn from it, because most people aren't geniuses. Geniuses don't need to watch this presentation. They'll figure it out. But my goal is to help people that have the drive to actually make a difference. They want to do something and they just don't know what the next steps are. So I really want to highlight those. But the number one thing I want to make clear is that if you want to be pre-med and you want to become a doctor, then you need to do research in high school. So the 3 secrets we're going to go into. The first one is how research gives you an unfair advantage twice. First for college applications and then medical school. The second secret is how you can spend 80% less time on extracurriculars while getting better results. And then secret 3 is how you can find research even if you live in the middle of nowhere. So secret 1, how research gives you an unfair advantage twice. First for college apps and then for medical school. So what most students think is all extracurriculars are equal, right? You just want to be well-rounded. So sports, debate, volunteering, research, it's all the same. And this could not be further from the truth. And to show this, I want to show you just a quick glimpse of what it's going to look like when you're applying for college. When you apply for college, let's say you had played basketball. You probably had been playing basketball for 10 years. You've played hundreds of games. You've gone to thousands of practices. But you don't get to say that on your application. What you get to say is you get this much space. And so first it'll ask you activity type. So you'll say athletic, then it'll say position. You're a varsity team member, you're a previous JV player. Organization name, that's just the name of the basketball team. And then you get 150 characters to basically take all of this work that you had done and consolidate it here. And so most people just say, oh, I played JV these years, then I made the varsity team, I attended games, and maybe best case situation, they get to say that they were the MVP one year. But the really special thing about research is research shows up in multiple places. So while regular activities are only on your activities list, research appears in your activities list where you get to write your position and the different tasks that you did. But also in the honors section, you can write about different awards you got, presentations, publications, any grants. Then you also have in your Common App and supplemental essays, you get to create this beautiful story. And here you can talk about different dissections you did or different challenges you ran into and how you overcame those. And so it gives you a full story on kind of research. And then lastly, this is the most important thing, most people don't realize this, is a letter of recommendation. Whenever I was in high school, I felt like my soccer coach probably knew me best. I spent the most time with him, but I could not trust my soccer coach to write this beautiful letter of recommendation. However, whenever you do research, particularly with an MD or a PhD or an MD PhD, you know that their letter will not only have great stories of everything you did, but it'll be written really beautifully with excellent English, and it'll be truly that impact that you're hoping to have in your application. And so that's one of the reasons that research leads to these phenomenal letters of recommendation that truly verify many of the things that you're saying up here. Because in a world of AI, even someone that is a horrible writer can write pretty good essays. But if the letter of recommendation can back up your whole story, now it's very easy for admissions committees to be like, oh, this is absolutely the case and this person is truly the real deal. Now let's just fast forward a little, because sometimes it's helpful to see what medical schools actually care about when you're looking at admissions. Because if it's possible for you to do work for medical school or for your medical school application and your college application at the same time, why not just do that? So the first thing a lot of medical schools care about is research experience. So publications, presentations, projects, responsibilities. Then they want letters of recommendation based on the various projects that you did. Lastly, they also care a lot about clinical experience. So for example, whenever you do research, researchers know other doctors and researchers within the field. So I did work within the lab of a retinal surgeon, and he knew neurologists, neurosurgeons, other ophthalmologists. So it was so easy for me to get volunteering and shadowing because he had opened up all of these different doors for me. And then there's always community service and leadership experience. And here's the problem with most high school activities. They expire. So if you're doing hospital volunteering, you could not include that in your medical school application. If you're doing some sports or some leadership there, you can't include that in your medical school application. And if you're doing community service, you can't include that in your medical school application. But research compounds. So if you get a publication in high school, that will be on your medical school application, and it'll also be on your residency application. Similarly with presentations, it'll be on your med school application and your residency application. It also makes it so much easier to get college research. Like I was sharing, you have this massive advantage over your peers because now you have a CV and you have references that can back up everything that you've done in the past. So it's such a better bet for college mentors to actually take you over someone else because you've had that experience. And then this part is really important, and that I think a lot of people don't realize, is that not all experiences in the lab is the same. Many people, whenever they get into a research lab, their job is to clean a lot of the glassware or to make different plates for different experiments, but they're not actually doing the experiments. But if you've done research in the past, it accelerates your journey into research because now they can trust you to actually do the experiments, not just do some of these other tasks that are important, but not necessarily ones that are going to help you in your career. And so I actually wanted to go through my timeline. So whenever I entered junior year of high school, I had no idea what research was. But shortly after I actually started doing research, then before my senior year of high school, I had my first presentation. During my senior year of high school, I won the Siemens semifinalist. About halfway through, I'd had my 10th presentation and my first publication. Then whenever I got to college, I instantly got into research, got my second publication from my high school work. And then before my second year of college, I had my 15th presentation. Shortly into it, I got my third publication. And then before my third year of college, I had started my nonprofit and got my fourth publication. And so it just set me on this massive trajectory difference from a lot of my peers. And so that was secret one, how research gives you an unfair advantage. Now, secret two, how can you spend 80% less time on extracurriculars and get better results? And the reason this matters is there's only so much time that you have. A lot of times with AP classes and studying for, ACT, SAT, you find yourself really slim on time. And so it's really important to think about how can you actually do less work with extracurriculars and have more time for the other things that matter. And what most students think is more hours is better. And I will quickly show you why this isn't always the case. Because the truth about time investment is, let's say that you're playing some sport where you're spending 15 plus hours a week, and then every weekend you go to different games, you're spending thousands of dollars in different equipment and fees, and then there's all this driving. But what do colleges see? They say athletic activity and varsity team member. But there's an even bigger problem, because many of the activities that you'll do in high school, you don't get to show anything for it. And if you do, the best thing you get to show is some numbers. There's no tangible proof or any concrete way to demonstrate this. For example, let's say you're volunteering through Beta Club at a food pantry. The best sentence that you can say here is that you completed 200 hours of service over 2 years. But the question I have is what stops someone from changing 200 to 400? Nothing. And that's what's really scary, right? With AI, you can change your essays, But you don't even need AI to just change the 2 to a 4, and there's no one that's going to verify this. And so what this has done is it has caused admission committees to really question, is this person lying or are they telling the truth? And so the more times your application has really impressive things, it's extremely important to have awards, to have research mentors or anyone back up those claims, because otherwise they'll think that you're lying. And so it's really important that whenever you have an activity, you have something to back it up. And that's one of the best parts about research, because in research, you can do 2 to 4 hours a week. You can have flexible scheduling. There's no season. So if you have a really busy semester, you can pull it back. Or if you have a lot of time, you can spend a lot of energy and make a lot of progress. You can work at your own pace. And sometimes once you've earned the trust, you can even do it remotely. And the best part is you get to publish papers, which are external validation of the work you're doing. You have presentations, you have awards and recognition. You also have real technical skills and letters of recommendation. And all of this just verifies what you said. And in a world where it's really hard to know what is real and what is not, this becomes more and more important, especially when you're competing at the top. And the transformation is pretty simple, right? Would you rather say 200 hours of volunteering, or I presented at the 2024 American Chemical Society Conference? This one sounds way better, and it's also just more believable, because there's no one verifying it. And so let's do the math. If you're spending 15 hours here or 3 hours on research, you can actually get much better results that you can verify with other accomplishments and awards that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise with 80% less time. And so that was the second secret. Now, third secret. How can you get research even if you live in the middle of nowhere? And I feel particularly qualified to answer this as someone that lived in the middle of nowhere. But the first thing most students need to understand is they typically believe that you need to live next to a big university, that you need some prior experience, you need family connections, or you have to pay for some program. And that's not the case. Because the problem with most activities is students think they need a prestigious program, these perfect opportunities, big name research labs, there's like some expensive summer camp. And rarely does this make a difference, because in your application, what matters is, how did you find this opportunity? How did you overcome obstacles? How did you show initiative? And then what was your problem solving journey? Because anytime you're doing something hard, you're going to come across problems. So how did you overcome those? And colleges care increasingly more about the how than the what, because someone that gets into Harvard from Nebraska, middle of Nebraska with minimal resources, maybe didn't do more than the person in the middle of New Jersey, but it's what they were able to accomplish it with their limited resources. And the best thing about research is research papers are publicly available, science fair projects are online, and it's really easy to find research near you and reverse engineer projects. One of the most favorite things I love to do is actually modeling the best. So this is from the Regeneron competition. So back whenever I did it, it was the Siemens competition, then Intel used to run it, and now it's Regeneron. And you can actually search these links. I made it very easy for you to search, where you can see what the top high school students are doing research-wise. And the thing I really want you to catch is there's a lot of variety. There's people from all over the place, and their projects are all over the place. So there is no true formula when it comes to this. You can do anything that you're really interested in. And I say this as someone that grew up in the middle of nowhere. So this is Owensboro, Kentucky. It is 3.5 hours from St. Louis, 3.5 hours from Cincinnati, and 2 hours from Nashville. But the process that you can use to find research is this think, search, discover process. And it works like a charm. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start with what you know. So just open up like a notes document and write all the universities, colleges, research labs that you know in your area. So I actually did this. So research in Owensboro. So there's Brusher University. It's a pretty small university. Kentucky Wesleyan College. I've seen some of their posters up. There's Western Kentucky University Owensboro campus. It's a singular building, but maybe there's something there. And then Owensboro Community and Technical College. So this is a community college, but a lot of times there's small research projects happening at these community colleges as well. Then you want to supplement this with step 2. So you go into Google and you search the name of your town college research, or any close by town college research. And the reason I like saying college research or undergrad research is because a top high school student is just as good, if not better, than an average college student. And so you want to actually compete for those college positions because that's where a lot of the juice is. And so you'll search this and then you'll add this to your list. And then here's step 3. This is my favorite. So PubMed is this beautiful database of all biomedical research that's ever had any significance on the world. And most people, whenever they use PubMed, they use it in a very particular way. They search for medical conditions or different genes and things of that nature. But I actually showed this to some of my friends and they were blown away. Where if you go to PubMed, you can actually come into the search bar and search a town. Search your town, search a nearby town, and then come here to the sort by feature and change it to most recent. And you'll see it will automatically populate with the most recent publications with any association to your town. So I had 162 for Owensboro, Kentucky, which is a super small town. And what you do is you first click on the top one, and then you go to affiliations and you expand it. And here I saw that there's this medical project going on, and it's associated with Family Medicine, Owensboro, University of Kentucky, University of Louisville. And University of Louisville is much bigger. And so you can actually use this opportunity as a means to get connected with a larger body of research that may be funding the research, that may be able to support you. And so I know that 111 are all connected with the University of Research, and then 2 is in the biostats department, so they're probably at the University of Louisville. But you know that you can easily connect with them because they are associated in your town. They may be in your town, but they're connected to a larger body of research. And similarly, you can continue this. For example, I was reading through some of these, and there's someone in Owensboro that's doing research with a bunch of people at Harvard, maybe because they had trained there. And so it's very easy to use this method to actually expand the list that you had started. And so what you want to do is you want to first think, you want to list every institution, then use Google to find any hidden opportunities, and then you use PubMed to find all active researchers, big and small. And this will work no matter where you live. It'll work in the middle of New York City. If you live in New York City, you may not have to go past level 1. You could probably just think of places and you'll know where to go. But if you live in a smaller town, you may have to go all the way through these 3 stages, but you'll have this massive list of various people doing research. And I think it's really, really important to realize what colleges care about, because so many students tell this story of, my parents paid for some $10,000 program, and I learned nothing. And I can verify this because there's so many of my friends that I asked them about, various summer programs that they did while in college, before college, and they said, yeah, I don't remember anything, and I frankly didn't learn anything. Because typically a lot of these programs, they teach knowledge, not skills. And so if I learn something about marine biology, but I don't actually build on it immediately, it's just going to leave. Whereas whenever you systematically find hidden research opportunities in your area and then turn into multiple publications, that is a beautiful story. That is a story that a university wants to get behind, because they think that you have the initiative, the drive to make something happen, even when you don't have that many opportunities. So let me ask you a question. Do you feel a little bit like this girl, where I know I talk very fast and I kind of hit on a lot of parts of research? I've gotten this a lot where I explain many of these things, and then whenever people go out to try to do it, they're like, oh, what email do I write, and things of that nature. And so what I have done with one of my smartest MD PhD friends is we've created this program called the 6-Week High School Research Fellowship. And the whole point of it is we basically took 10 years of knowledge. We both started doing research around 2014, and now it's actually 2015. And so, or 2025, where we've learned all of these lessons that we want to actually be able to make available to people. Because the thing with research is it's very antiquated. To learn something, you almost have to have a direct mentor. But some of these lessons are very transferable. And so we took all of these lessons and we kind of combined it with a lot of the mentoring we've done of 100 plus high school students, 10,000 plus hours of doing research, and then multiple grants, publications, and presentations that we've done. And the best part is we're still doing research. And so the fact that we're involved with research means we understand as the tide changes, so that we can make sure that we're advising people of the correct things. And so if you're interested in this fellowship, we have a really special deal. In the link in the description, we actually have a free training for your parents. It's currently free, but the way that it's set up is our goal is to help you for an extended period of time. And so we have a free training that's very similar to this presentation. Have your parents watch it and then talk to them about it. Because if you want to take your application to the next level, research is by far the best activity you can do in high school. So check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at hirsch@researchskills.org or just info@researchskills.org, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. But I'm super excited. I'm glad that you're interested in research. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Bye-bye.